Have you ever felt like you're losing your mind, but in some strange way, it feels like truth? Tell me in the comments, when did your awakening start to feel like madness? You are standing in the middle of a life you once called yours, and suddenly, the floor tilts. The walls that carried your certificates, your photographs, your carefully rehearsed opinions begin to breathe, as if they were only cardboard all along. You reach for the old anchors, your name, your job title, the story you tell at parties about who you are, and your fingers pass through them like smoke. This is the moment the spiritual traditions warn about but never quite prepare you for. The instant the ego, that diligent stage manager of the human comedy, discovers the script is written in disappearing ink. You thought you were the actor, now you suspect you are the echo of a line someone else forgot to deliver. The mind, accustomed to being the chief executive officer of reality, finds itself unemployed, clutching a resume that lists separate self under previous experience. And the joke, the cosmic chuckle that Alan Watts would savor over a cup of tea, is that the panic feels perfectly reasonable. Of course you're terrified. The map you swore was a territory just folded itself into an origami swan and flew out the window. Picture a wave on the Pacific, proud of its white crest, its forward momentum, its unique curl. It has a name, let's say, wave number 4,872,019, and a biography, born off the coast of Big Sur, destined to kiss a particular grain of sand. Then, one ordinary afternoon, the wave notices something unsettling. Every valley it falls into is made of the same water that lifts it up. The separation was a convenient fiction, a sailor's yarn. The wave does not die. It simply stops believing the story that it ever lived apart from the sea. This is what is happening to you. The mind, that tireless narrator, has been spinning a private documentary titled The Life and Times of Me, complete with dramatic close-ups and a swelling soundtrack. Awakening is the moment the projector jams, the film melts, and the blank screen reveals itself to be the light that was always shining through the images. What feels like madness is the gap between the last frame of the old movie and the first glimpse of unfiltered daylight. You walk down a familiar street, and the shop signs look like hieroglyphs. The barista who knows your order smiles the same smile, yet the smile now seems borrowed from a dream. Language, that trusty net, develops holes. Words slip through and land somewhere behind your eyes, glistening like fish that refuse to be named. You try to explain to a friend that the I you used to inhabit feels like a coat left on a hook in another room, and your friend nods politely the way one nods at a street preacher promising the end of the world by lunchtime. The humor is exquisite. Here you are, finally touching the hem of the reel, and the only symptom anyone notices is that you forgot to comb your hair. The seriousness with which we defend our illusions is the Divine Comedy's longest-running gag. We polish the mask until it gleams, then scream when it cracks, never suspecting the crack is the first place the light gets in. Imagine a mirror that has hung in the hallway for decades, faithfully reflecting the same face morning after morning. One dawn, the glass ripples, just slightly, and the reflection hesitates. The eyes in the mirror blink, a fraction after yours. For years you took the echo for the voice. Now the echo falls silent. The terror is not that the mirror is broken, but that it was never whole to begin with. What dies is the conviction that the image was the original. The mind, poor, dutiful thing, rushes in with duct tape and positive affirmations, trying to paste the shards back into a portrait. But the glue refuses to hold because the portrait was always a projection on mist. Awakening is the gentle, inexorable dissolving of the mist. You do not lose your reflection. You lose the need to keep checking it. There is a tenderness in this unraveling that the old mind, with its taste for melodrama, cannot bear to acknowledge. It wants trumpets, earthquakes, a thunderclap labeled enlightenment handled with care. Instead, the universe offers the quiet pop of a soap bubble. You are sitting on a bus, staring at a stranger's earlobe when the thought arrives unannounced. None of this was ever mine to hold. The earlobe, the bus, the worry about rent, all of it borrowed scenery in a play whose author cannot be cast. The realization is so ordinary it feels obscene. Spiritual fireworks would be easier. One could frame the explosion and hang it above the sofa. But the real show is the slow fade of the footlights, the moment the audience realizes the theater and the street outside are the same night air. And still the heart protests. If I let go of the story, What will keep me warm? The mind, ever the worried parent, packs extra sandwiches for a journey that has no destination. It mistakes the map for nourishment, the menu for the meal. Yet beneath the panic hums a older music. The sound of the ocean remembering it is also the wave. The confusion is not a malfunction. It is the echo of a bell that was struck long before you learned to listen for doorbells and alarm clocks. The madness is simply the mind discovering it has been speaking fluent paradox all along, translating silence into noise, because noise felt safer than the vastness. So the old certainties peel away like wallpaper in a house that was never yours to renovate. You watch the strips curl and fall, revealing not blank plaster but sky. The fear is real, the disorientation dizzying, yet threaded through it is a laughter too large for the throat. You are not losing your mind, you are losing the illusion that you ever were one. The collapse is only the preface, the quiet inhalation, before the universe remembers how to sing in a voice that has no opposite. The walls are gone, the script is ash. You sit in what the mystics call the great emptiness, and it feels like the universe pressed mute. No name answers when you call it, no story rushes in to explain the silence. This is the second movement of awakening, not the crash, but the hush after. The mind, stripped of its job as reality's press secretary, does what any recently fired employee does. It paces the lobby, clutching a box of stapled memories, waiting for someone to offer a new position. No one comes. The lobby is the cosmos, and the cosmos has no HR department. You expected trumpets, or at least a polite memo. Instead, you get this. A spaciousness so complete, it swallows sound. Thoughts still float by old grievances. Grocery lists. The jingle from a cereal you hated as a child, but they drift like clouds over an empty prairie. You reach for them the way you once reached for a light switch in the dark, and your hand closes on air. The absence is not hostile. It simply refuses to negotiate. The ego, that chatty tour guide, has been asked to wait outside. For the first time, you hear the sound of no one narrating. Picture a night so clear the stars seem embarrassed by their own brightness. You lie on the grass and realize the darkness between the stars is not an absence of light, but a presence so vast it makes light look like a shy visitor. This is the void, not a whole, but a wholeness, wearing the costume of nothing. The mind, trained on neon billboards and push notifications, mistakes the costume for the actor. It wants to fill the silence with podcasts, mantras, visions of ascending masters in pastel robes. The silence declines the invitation. It is already full. There is a delicious irony here, the kind Watts would sip like single malt. We spent lifetimes stuffing the void with furniture, relationships, achievements, spiritual merit badges, only to discover the furniture was rented and the void was the mansion all along. The terror is that the mansion has no address. You cannot brag about living there. There is no doorbell for envy to ring. The freedom is that no one can evict you either. You are the lease, the landlord, the empty room where echoes learn they were never separate from the voice. Some nights, the old panic returns wearing new pajamas. If I am not my thoughts, who will pay the bills? The question is earnest, almost sweet. The void answers by refusing to answer. It offers instead the soft click of a door you didn't know was open. Step through and the bills are still there, but they float like paper boats on a midnight river. The river doesn't care who owns the boats, it only knows how to carry. You begin to notice that breathing happens in the silence, not in spite of it. The inhale arrives unannounced. The exhale leaves without apology. Between the two, a gap no wider than a heartbeat, lives the entire show. The mind wants to name the gap nirvana, samadhi, cosmic coffee break, but the gap refuses labels the way water refuses to be grasped. This is the joke. The more desperately you try to bottle the emptiness, the more it slips through your fingers and becomes the hand that was trying to hold it. People will ask how you are, and you will open your mouth to deliver the usual weather report fine, busy, surviving only to find the words have dissolved into birds and flown south. You smile instead, a small conspiratorial smile that says, I have seen the backstage of reality and the props are made of breathing. They will think you are high or heartbroken. Both are true, in the way that dawn is both end and beginning. The void is not a punishment. It is a love letter written in invisible ink, Hold it to the flame of attention and the message appears. You are never the content of the cup. You are the space that makes drinking possible. The cup cracks, the tea spills, the space remains untouched, unstained, quietly laughing at the idea that it could ever be empty. This is part 2, learning to live inside the laughter without needing to explain the joke. The silence is not waiting for you to feel it. It is waiting for you to notice you never left. The fog does not lift. It reveals itself as sky. One ordinary Tuesday, perhaps while peeling an orange or waiting for a kettle, the mind stops its frantic renovation project and simply looks. No trumpets, no celestial choir, just the soft click of a lens sliding into focus. What was chaos rearranges into patterns so obvious you laugh out loud in the produce aisle. The laughter is not manic. It is the chuckle of a magician who finally admits the rabbit was always in the hat. This is the third movement. Clarity arriving not as a prize, but as the punchline to a joke you have been telling yourself since birth. You see the thought arise, I should have answered that email, and instead of boarding the guilt train, you watch it pull into the station, open its doors, and close them again, empty. The train does not need you to conduct it. It runs on tracks laid by habit, not destiny. The clarity is mercilessly kind. It shows you the tracks, the timetable, and the platform where you have been standing all these years pretending to be the locomotive. Freedom is noticing you can step off without permission. The orange in your hand smells suddenly illegal in its intensity, as if scent were a controlled substance doled out by a nervous cosmos. Picture a kaleidoscope you shook for decades, convinced the shifting colors were news bulletins about reality. One day you stop shaking. The fragments settle into a mandala so perfect it hurts to look at directly. This is thought without the commentary track. A memory surfaces your father's disappointed sigh in 1997, and for the first time you hear the sigh without the subtitle, Proof I Am Unlovable. The sigh is just air shaped by a throat, gone before it arrived. Clarity is the moment the subtitle writer goes on permanent coffee break. The world sharpens into high definition, but the pixels are made of mercy. You notice the barista's tired eyes and feel them as your own tiredness wearing a different face. Separation was a special effect, a cheap 3D glass you forgot to remove. Now the movie plays in IMAX and the screen is your chest. The clarity does not erase pain, it relocates it. The thorn in your foot is still a thorn, but you see it is growing from the same rose bush that feeds the bee drunk on nectar 2 inches away. Suffering and joy are not opposites. They are the same stem viewed from different angles. Language returns but lighter, like a shirt you shrunk in the wash and now wear ironically. You say I, and hear the quotation marks around it, the way a comedian says, my ex, and the audience knows the real subject is the human comedy. Words become fingers pointing at the moon instead of cages trying to stuff the moon inside. You tell a friend, the traffic was murder, and both of you grin because murder is suddenly revealed as a weather report delivered by a puppet. The puppet is adorable, the strings are made of starlight. There is a moment brief, almost indecent in its simplicity, when you realize every spiritual teaching was a postcard from this address. The sages were not bragging. They were leaving breadcrumbs that tasted like ordinary bread once you arrived hungry enough. Clarity is the kitchen where the bread is baked, the oven still warm, the flour on your hands indistinguishable from the dough. You do not transcend the mess. You discover the mess was always leavened with light. The old mind tries one last stand. If everything is clear, why do I still forget my keys? Clarity smiles and hands you the keys, which were in your hand the whole time. Forgetting is not a glitch. It is the universe's way of reminding you that even clarity enjoys a good hide and seek. The game is rigged in your favor. The seeker and the sought are the same pair of eyes blinking in the mirror. The mirror, once cracked, now reflects a face that no longer needs to rehearse being seen. This is part 3. The moment thought becomes transparent and reveals the seer wearing its own disguise. The chaos was never the enemy. It was the dance floor. Clarity is learning the steps were optional, that standing still in the middle of the music is also a perfect pirouette. The music, of course, is silence wearing rhythm like a party hat. You do not leave the party. You notice you are the room where the music remembers how to be quiet. You step back onto the street and the ordinary is obscene in its brilliance. The same cracked sidewalk, the same barking dog, the same unpaid bill, yet the bill is now a love letter written in bureaucratic font. You sign it with a flourish because the ink is made of sunrise. This is the return. Not a triumphant march, but a quiet homecoming to a house you never left. The door was open. You only thought you needed a key. The eye returns, lighter, like a jacket you forgot you were wearing until the weather changed. You say, "My name," and hear the echo laugh, "My name, my game, my same." Identity is a hat you tip instead of a helmet you defend. At the grocery store, you forget the list and buy whatever the avocado tells you. The cashier's boredom is your boredom wearing a different name tag. You pay with exact change because separation is a rumor you no longer repeat. Love arrives without a target. You water the neighbor's dying basil because the basil is thirsty, not because you are noble. The act is so small it circles the globe. Children chase pigeons, you chase nothing and arrive on time. The mind still chats, rent, deadlines. The ache in your left knee, but the chatter is birdsong in a cathedral you finally notice you are. You nod at the birds the way you nod at clouds, same sky, different costume. There is no finish line, only the endless beginning of now wearing yesterday's shoes. You lose your keys and find them in the butter. You laugh so hard the butter forgives you. Awakening is no longer a state, it is the ordinary doing cartwheels. The wave returns to the ocean, still waving. You return to the world, still worlding.